Let's talk about something that's happening all around us, even if we don't always notice it. Unconscious bias. You know that split second decision you make about someone before even realizing it? That's your brain making quick judgments. And while it's designed to help us navigate the world, it can also lead to ignoring people and their opinions. The thing is, unconscious bias affects us all, whether we realize it or not. And the impact can be huge, especially when it comes to decision making and relationships. Today, we're going to dive into how unconscious bias creeps into our lives and how we can combat it. Let's start by breaking it down. Unconscious bias is when our brain makes snap judgments about people or situations based on past experiences, stereotypes, or limited information. It happens without us even realizing it. And while it's natural, it can lead to unfair assumptions and decisions. Think of it this way: your brain is like a super efficient machine that's trying to save time. It processes tons of information every second, so it uses shortcuts, biases, to make sense of the world. But here's the problem. These shortcuts don't always lead to accurate or fair conclusions. Unconscious bias isn't a new concept. Throughout history, cultures have used stories, myths, and legends to show how quickly we can misjudge others. In Indian mythology, the Ramayana teaches us about the consequences of quick judgments. In the story, Lord Rama judges his wife, Sita, based on a single assumption after she was rescued from the demon king, Ravana. Even though Sita's loyalty and love were unquestionable, Rama's bias and the pressure of societal expectations led him to doubt her, resulting in heartbreaking consequences. This tale reminds us of the dangers of acting on bias without considering the bigger picture. The story of Juan Tamad is a famous Filipino folk tale about a lazy boy who lies under a guava tree waiting for the fruit to fall into his mouth. Many people judged Juan as lazy, but some versions of the story suggest that Juan was actually a clever boy who found a way to achieve his goal with minimal effort. The lesson here: sometimes what looks like laziness or incompetence is actually resourcefulness. We just need to challenge our initial assumptions. Folk wisdom often carries timeless lessons, and when it comes to bias, there's plenty to learn from the stories passed down through generations. Take the phrase, "Don't judge a book by its cover." It's simple, but it's a reminder that we all tend to judge people based on surface level information, whether it's their appearance, background, or even the way they speak. Folk wisdom tells us to dig deeper, to look beyond the surface, and to understand the full story before forming an opinion. In many cultures, elders would often remind younger generations to walk in another's shoes before making judgments. This timeless wisdom is about empathy, and it's a powerful antidote to unconscious bias. Let's bring this conversation into the modern world. We've seen unconscious bias play out in various ways recently. Take, for example, the controversy surrounding Simone Biles at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Many people jumped to conclusions about her decision to withdraw from certain events, judging her as weak or letting the team down. But upon reflection, we learned that Simone was prioritizing her mental health, which took an incredible amount of strength. This situation shows how quickly we can make assumptions without fully understanding the context. Another example is the growing conversation around bias in the workplace, particularly when it comes to hiring. Studies show that unconscious bias can affect who gets hired, promoted, or even interviewed. Big companies are starting to implement unconscious bias training to address this issue, which highlights just how pervasive this problem can be. Maybe you've had a similar experience where you judged someone too quickly or felt like others overlooked you because of their assumptions. It's something we all go through, and that's why it's so important to be aware of it. Let's draw inspiration from some of the greatest minds who've spoken on the power of challenging bias. Nelson Mandela once said, "People respond in accordance to how you relate to them. If you approach them on the basis of violence, that's how they will react. But if you say, we want peace, we want stability, we can then do a lot of things that will contribute to the progress of our society." Mandela's words remind us that the way we view and treat others can shape their responses. When we approach people with open minds and without bias, we build bridges rather than walls. Maya Angelou put it simply: prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. Unconscious bias, like prejudice, limits our ability to truly connect with others. Here's an analogy for you. Unconscious bias is like wearing glasses with smudged lenses. You think you're seeing things clearly, but in reality, your view is distorted. If you don't take a moment to clean those lenses, if you don't check your biases, then you're not seeing people or situations for what they truly are. And just like cleaning your glasses, addressing unconscious bias requires awareness and effort. Another metaphor, think of unconscious bias like driving with a blindfold on. You think you're navigating well, but you're missing crucial information, which can lead to dangerous outcomes. Removing that blindfold, becoming aware of your biases, helps you steer in the right direction. Here's your challenge for the week. Pay attention to the snap judgments you make about people, whether it's at work, on social media, or even with your friends and family. Take a moment to ask yourself, am I judging this person based on facts, or is there an unconscious bias at play? Try having a conversation with someone you might have previously overlooked or dismissed. You might be surprised at how much you learn, and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about your experiences and what insights you gained. Unconscious bias is a part of being human, but that doesn't mean we can't work on recognizing and overcoming it. By being more aware of our quick judgments and assumptions, we can create more inclusive environments, build stronger relationships, and make better decisions. Remember, every time we challenge our biases, we open ourselves up to new perspectives, deeper connections, and a more open world. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder to look beyond their biases. And let's keep the conversation going. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, stories, or personal experiences with bias.